All right, so I am live finally. Sorry about that, everybody. May need to refresh your browser. So putting that message in there. All right, so glad to have everybody. Yeah, John, our programmer, he's on here saying that everybody refresh. So yeah, make sure you refresh your browser. Obviously, if you haven't refreshed your browser, you're probably not hearing me say that, but um, I'll give everybody a couple minutes to get on here, refresh your browsers. If you do hear me, just send me a quick note. Let me know that you can hear me and see me and all that good stuff. We'll just give everybody a couple minutes. And I will go longer. I'll go 5 minutes after or whatever just to make up for the time that we lost here. So there should be a few people on here. All right, Carl, thank you. Yeah, so you may need to refresh your browser. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here then, since I have confirmation from at least one person that's out there, or two people. All right, so let me go to, it would be Timothy A says, does hitting wiffle balls create any problems? No, not in a sense. The only thing about wiffle balls are that they don't really sit down in the grass like a normal golf ball would. So it kind of teaches you, it can, if you let the balls kind of just like stay on top of the grass, if you're hitting on some thick grass or something like that. Because usually people are hitting wiffle balls in their backyard, and our backyards are usually not manicured like golf courses are, like really short fairway grass, right? So it's usually taller grass that we're hitting off of, and we're trying to hit those little wiffle balls off the top of the grass. So that can kind of promote, things like hitting up on the ball or things like that, which aren't things that we want to do with iron. So I would just make sure get that wiffle ball down in the grass. And with the wiffle balls, they're just so light and imperfect, and when you hit them, they're going to, they're going to lose a lot of their shape, and then they're kind of unpredictable. So I wouldn't pay attention to how the ball flies. You're just trying to hit something, which is all that really matters. So I would just try to have it down in the grass a little bit, almost as if a golf ball would be, and that will make it more like you're hitting a golf ball. So James Q says, hey Q, I have always had a slight draw with the driver. Went to look at new drivers as was told the draw was due to the setting up with the club head closed. Said I was losing loft due to doing this. Suggested using offset driver and setting up with less closed face. I'm having trouble getting used to this. Any suggestions? Thought about going to higher lofted driver and keeping setup the same. So sure, I can talk about this a little bit. So essentially, if you're talking about draw, what makes the ball draw is the face close to the path. The way that you set up, it doesn't matter to a certain extent because it only matters what's happening at impact. So just because you set up with the face closed at impact doesn't mean that the face is going to be closed at impact. And just because you set up with the face open doesn't mean it's going to be open. You can set up with the face open and then close the face at impact. It only matters what's happening at impact. So if you're someone who hits a draw and all things equal, and you go to a offset driver, most likely you're going to tend to close that face a little bit more because, if you think about it, the face is a little bit behind where it was before. So when you're coming through impact and you're kind of rolling your hands over, it's actually going to be rolled over a little bit more and more closed as you're coming into impact with with an offset driver. So if usually an offset driver is to help somebody who might be struggling with a slice, because it helps you get that face closed a little bit. So if you're someone who's hitting a draw, I'm not an expert club fitter. Maybe this person is, but I don't really see how getting you an offset driver is going to help. If anything, it's going to make you draw the ball or start hooking the ball if you don't change things with your swing. So I would imagine just having a normal driver and just trying to set up with the face the way that you normally do, and actually trying to come into impact with a little bit more of an open face may help you a little bit more. And just changing the loft a little bit, giving you a little bit loft. You just got to look at your launch conditions. I don't know where you went to get your club. And like I said, I'm not an expert club fitter, but to me, that seems counterintuitive to me. So it doesn't really make any sense to me, to be honest. I'm sorry, that's probably not what you want to hear, but it doesn't really. Someone who hits a draw, giving them an offset driver, that makes absolutely zero sense to me, because it's only going to make you probably start hooking the ball if you don't change things in your golf swing. And I wouldn't get a driver to change things in your golf swing. I would take whatever driver you have now and try to hit it the best you can with, maybe changing your golf swing with the driver you have now to hit it better. It sounds like if you're just hitting a nice baby draw out there and you're trying to get a higher launch, there's all kinds of things that you can do better. You can hit up on the golf ball instead of hitting down on the golf ball. You can add a little bit more loft. You can get the ball higher on the face to get the ball to launch more, because the face is domed, from side to side and from top to bottom. It is domed. So the number that you see on the driver for as far as the loft, that is the center of the club face. Up or higher on the club face, it can be up to 3 degrees more, and lower on the club face, it can be 3 degrees less. So you can have a 9-degree driver, but it can be 12 degrees at the very top of the face and 6 degrees at the lower part of the face. So hitting it a little bit higher on the face is not necessarily going to be a bad thing, because the way that they're able to move around the CG, the center of gravity in these drivers, it makes it so that they're a little bit more forgiving in certain areas. And you can get a driver that's more forgiving in the higher part of the face and allow you to launch the ball higher with lower spin, which is going to equal more distance. So honestly, I'm not really sure how that helps you getting an offset driver, but unless you're slicing the ball. But even if you are slicing the ball, you would still be better off just working on your swing, your club path to hit it better, because you're still going to be cutting across the ball, even if you get an offset driver. It's just that you might find it a little bit easier to time the face with an offset driver instead of leaving it so far open. All right, so Neil D says, I asked you last week for a drill to get out of greenside bunkers. The one thing you omitted to tell me was how far behind the ball I should hit. So in general, 4 to 6 inches is a pretty good amount to be hitting behind the ball. So the best way to do that is to work on that would be very, very easy. So I'm going to try to make this here. I'll do it on the other side of the board here so you can see it. But let's say, I'm trying to think of what colors I know will show up really good. I think that one shows up pretty good. So if you have some golf, I put some golf balls. If we're looking at bird's eye view of a bunker, put some golf balls in the bunker like that. And then I would draw a line 3 inches on this side and 3 inches on this side. So there'd be 6 inches between the lines. Then you would have 3 inches on each side. And then I would practice hitting these bunker shots, entering the sand at the first line and exiting the sand at the second line. That's going to give you a pretty good, that's going to give you a pretty good feel. And then you can adjust your feel based on what you're seeing there. All right. So Bud N says, toe face contact with slight solid pull result. Fix is shallower path. Toe face contact with slight. So I'm not sure if you had a question or if you're just kind of making a statement. Fix is shallower path. So Bud, if you're still on there, if you could give me a little bit more background. I'm not sure exactly if you're asking something or what you're trying to say here. So go ahead, and if you're still on here, give me a little bit more background there on what you're asking. So Mark B says, Q, Clay and others talk about the sudden burst of club head speed right at impact due to whipping action or cracking the whip motion. Can you please describe in detail what the hands are doing at that instance? Thanks as always. We really appreciate your time and answers. So basically what's going on is you're coming down into impact. So if I grab my driver here, if you're coming into impact, what's happening is you're coming down. As you are coming down, you're getting your hands at a low point in the swing. So your hands are moving around your body in an arc, right? So if I just kind of think about it like that, they're moving around my body in an arc. So they're coming down. Usually, they're coming down and it's reaching about a low point right in this area right here. And then from here, my hands start to move up. So if my hands are moving up as the club head is moving down, that's going to help whip this club through there. So if you imagine, if I just have hold my shaft right here by the tips of my fingers, and I just go side to side, I don't move up. I'm just going laterally side to side. That's how fast that club's going to move. But if I go like this and I actually dip down and pull up, see how much faster that goes? So I'm going like this, and then I go down and I pull up and backwards. That's essentially the feeling that you want to have, is that you're pulling up and backwards, because that's basically what's happening. You're pulling up and back away. The forces that you're putting into the handle are in this direction, because the club head, when you're releasing it, is going that way. The forces are going that way, and you're pulling back this way. So that's helping whip that club through there. So that's basically what's going on there when you are whipping those hands through there. If you want to see a very, very detailed video with all sorts of videos and things like that, I recommend going to the compression line course. And you can actually, there's tons of videos where Clay talks about whipping the club as well. So if you just search the word whip, W-H-I-P, in the search engine on the website, you'll find a bunch of videos on it. So the best place to find that search engine is if you go in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search window there. Just search the word whip, and you'll find a ton of videos on it if you want more on that. But that's basically what's going on. Just to talk about it in a simpler sense, you're coming down, the club, your hands are reaching a lowest point, and then from there, the club head's moving down as your hands are moving up, and that's creating a whipping motion through impact. All right. All right, so let me get a drink real quick. All right, so Peter says, I'm hitting my driver way too much to the right. Suggestions for fixing this. So I need a little bit more information from you, Peter. So when you're hitting it right, is it just a shot that starts right and it doesn't have a lot of curvature on it? It's just like kind of like a straight block push to the right? Or is it a ball that starts relatively straight or left and then slices to the right? Because the fix for that's going to be it's going to be a little bit different. So I'll just go through both of them and basically talk about it. So the ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, and then it's going to curve away from your club path. The further your face and your path are apart, the more the ball is going to curve. The closer they are together, the less the ball is going to curve. So for a perfectly straight shot, typically your face and your path are very connected together. So if you're hitting a shot out to the right and there's no curvature on it, that means that your club face is open and your path is also into out. What's good about that is that you're aligning your face to your path, which is good. So what you probably need to feel like is more like you're coming more over the top, if that is what's going on. So if you are swinging too much, if the ball is starting to the right and it's staying in that direction, there's no curvature on the shot, it's just a push block out to the right, then I would try to feel like you're swinging more over the top and get your face to align with your path again. And you may feel like you're doing this in the downswing over the top, but the reality is probably that you're going to be swinging more on path. Now, if you start hitting pulls, then you just need to ease off of it a little bit. So try to get the ball to start to the left and swing to the left. And when you do that, you'll most likely end up with a straighter shot. If you overdo it, then ease off of it a little bit. If you don't do it enough, then exaggerate it a little bit more. Now let's go over the other issue. If it's a slice to the right, so it's a big time curve, ball starts straight or to the left, and it curves to the right, assuming that you're a right-handed golfer anyway. That would be a product of a face that is either square, pretty close to square to the target, and then a path that is too much over the top. So the fix for that is going to be the opposite. Sort of the opposite as far as the path is concerned. So the path, try to get the path to be working more from the inside and try to feel like you're closing the face down as much as you can. So basically the best way to fix any issue is to exaggerate the opposite. If you're hitting a push out to the right, block out to the right, try to hit a pull. If you're hitting a big old slice out to the right, it starts straight and then slices right, or starts left and slices right, then try to hit a hook that starts straight and slices and hooks left, or starts to the right and hooks left, depending on which one it is. So it's all about just exaggerating the opposite. Then once you're able to do the opposite, then you can ease off the feeling to get more where you want to be. If you're still having trouble with it, then you need to keep on exaggerating it until you can get that ball to curve the other direction. So if you're hitting a slice, start straight, curves to the right, then what I'd recommend doing is I would try to feel like you're swinging way more from the inside and that you're closing the face over. So just kind of choke up on this club, kind of show you what I'm talking about. If you're swinging way from the inside, meaning this club's coming down more inside the hands instead of like that, it's coming more like that. And then you are coming in and closing that face down as you're coming through. So that's going to help you to get that ball to start in hooking a little bit more. And then once you get that, then you can just ease off of that. That's really the best way to fix it. Now, if you're slicing, I recommend, you're really having trouble with it, I recommend going to a Never Slice Again course and working through the drills there. If you click on the house icon, that's going to take you to the home page. If you scroll down, you'll see all the courses, and you'll see the Top Speed Golf System course progress. And below that, you'll see the Never Slice Again course. Start working through that course, and that'll help you out with that quite a bit. All right. So everybody's saying, okay, awesome. Rayjin J says, hi, I joined today. Been playing golf for 1 year. I'm 60 years old. Watched 20-minute distance fix video. Need advice as I am confused. I tend to play golf with friends once a week. What should I be practicing on in between? Do I just practice the drills in the order suggested and just play, or should I be practicing on something else as well? Please advise. So I'd recommend working through the 20-minute distance fix course first. And then, once you finish that, if you want it, you can keep on going through it and try to keep building on it. But, if you get through it and you're satisfied with where you're at, then I would move on to maybe the Top Speed Golf System or something like that. If you want a more, the only way so first of all, everyone's going to be able to benefit from more distance. So that's why we suggest everybody stays there. It's really the key. It's one of the biggest keys to playing great golf is being able to hit it further. Statistically, if you think about it in this sense, for every mile per hour club head speed you gain, it's like knocking off a stroke off your handicap, because that's what it is over the average of all golfers. Your average golfer has a handicap of about 14 or 15. Your average tour player has a handicap of about +4 or +5. So that's a difference of 19, 20 strokes, something like that. Your average golfer, male golfer, all right, has a club head speed of roughly 94, 95 miles per hour. Your average tour player has a club head speed of about 113, 114 miles per hour. Again, a difference of about 19 miles per hour. So it's about a 1-to-1 ratio on the average. Now, I'm not saying you're going to go out and if you gain 10 miles per hour, you're going to knock 10 strokes off your handicap. It's just an average over everybody. So it just shows how important distance is for handicap. It's very, very important. So that's why that's the number one thing that we're talking about. You should start out in and get working through that. Now, there is some overlap there because in the Top Speed Golf System, we do talk about getting a better shoulder turn because it just helps you it goes through that in a little bit more detail. And then also lag also goes through that in a little bit more detail. So Top Speed Golf System, there is going to be some overlap there. And if you're good in those areas, you may not need to spend as much time in those pieces of the Top Speed Golf System. But yeah, I would recommend going through the 20-minute distance fix. It's 2 range sessions a week plus a home session. And you know what? You don't have to do it in 3 weeks. If you only have time to go to the range once a week and play golf once a week, that's completely fine. Spread it out over 6 weeks. If you have more time than that, then I would just recommend 2 range sessions and maybe doubling up those. If you have time to go to the range session 4 times a week, then great. You can go and do week 1 drills twice in the first week if that's what you want to do. But I wouldn't take more than 3 or less than 3 weeks. I wouldn't try to go through the 20-minute distance fix in 1 week. Try to spread it out over 3 weeks. Give yourself time to recover and get better with it. But the 20-minute distance fix is what I would recommend you work on. If you want to work on the Top Speed Golf System a little bit in between, that's completely fine. But that's a lot. I mean, that's asking yourself to do a lot. If you have that much time to practice, that's fine, but you don't necessarily have to do that. So if you want someone to pinpoint exactly what you need to work on, the only way for us to know that is for us to see your swing. So if you're interested in that, I'm not sure if you know, since you're a new member, but we do offer an unlimited swing review program where you can work one-on-one with an instructor such as myself or Robin. So at the top of the screen there, you'll see click here to work one-on-one with Top Speed Golf instructors. Click on that, and that'll give you some more information on the programs that we offer there. And if you'd like to know exactly what you need to pinpoint that, then that's what you need to do. But it's hard for us to know exactly, and that's part of the reason why we suggest the 20-minute distance fix starting out, because really that's going to apply to everybody. All right, so Bud N says fix ? I assume he's talking about his previous. So he says toe face contact with slight solid pull left. Well, that's kind of an oxymoron. You can't really hit it solid and off the toe at the same time. Fix his shallower path. But can you would you mind writing a complete sentence about what's going on, so that, because I'm just a little bit confused about what I know you're trying to do it. It seems like in as few words as possible. But I just want to make sure that we're on the same page so I can give you the best answer possible. All right. And if you've already done that, I'll see it. I just haven't gotten. I see you haven't put anything more than that on here. So Leland H says, while using the impact snap straight release, what would be the setup for draw? How would hands, wrists react to each other? So it's just about, when we're talking about the release, all we're talking about is where that club is coming in and bisecting the arms. So when we're coming into impact, we're releasing this club out in front. So you can see this club is bisecting the arms. We're not talking anything about where the face is pointing. It's really just about where that's the release. So if you're wanting to hit a draw, the face just has to be closed to your path. So you may want to swing more into out with a closed club face. To hit a fade, you're going to swing more out to in with an open club face. But the release is the same. You're still going to release this club out in front. It's just a matter, am I swinging into out with a closed club face, or am I swinging out to in with an open club face? So that's basically all the differences is between it. Now, you may turn the handle down a little bit more to close it, and you may kind of hold the face off a little bit more to have it open. So the release is the same as far as where the club's bisecting the arms. It's just a matter of the face relationship to the path. That's where you're going to see the difference there. So Leland H had another question. Said, when hitting a draw or fade, do you still make sure the club is no more than 1 to 3 degrees open or shut at impact? And what should the hands, wrists be doing utilizing the impact snap straight line release? So again, the impact snap, that's just to help you get the hands in a position. It's basically defaulting to where it would be essentially a square club face is what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to have the face open to the path a little bit, having the face open a little bit, so the top of that impact snap is square, right? It's flat. So if you wanted to have the face a little bit more open, you would have that pointing a little bit more that way. Have it a little bit more closed, it would be pointing a little bit more to the left. If you're a right-handed golfer, that would be closing the face. But you're still coming in and releasing the club the same way, if that makes sense. Just one, you open the face a little bit more. One, you close the face a little bit more. It also depends on your path. Your face just has to be, that's if you have a neutral path. If you just have to have the face open to the path, they hit a fade and close to the face, and the face closed to the path to hit a draw. Now, as far as wanting 1 to 3 degrees open, it really just depends on how much curvature you want to have on the shot. So if you are trying to hit a big old slice, you're probably going to want to have more than 3 degrees. It's not going to curve very much. Now, if you're not wanting to lose much distance when hitting that draw or fade, and you're just trying to do it so you can start the ball a little bit more to the right or a little bit more to the left to maybe avoid trouble or eliminate one side of the course, then yeah, you want it to be no more than 3 degrees. That's typically what you're going to see. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing some yard. If you have a bigger difference than that between your face and your path, you can basically plan on losing a little bit of yardage there because you're basically hitting it with more of a glancing blow. You're cutting across it a little bit more, which is going to affect, how much compression you're going to get on the ball. So if you're trying to hit a draw or a fade, yes, if you're trying to hit a solid one that still goes about the same distance, you're really not going to be able to have as much of a difference between your face and the path, more than 3 degrees, I would say. If you need to curve the ball more, then you're going to need to have more difference between your face and your path, but also play that ball not to go as far because you're going to be hitting it with more of a glancing blow, if that makes sense. All right. All right, so Jeffrey N says, Clay says that to do an intentional slice, you need to open the club face and change the club path. Other instructor says to maintain normal path, shot line should be towards where you want the ball, start off with the open club face. Do both work? So I'm a little bit, basically what it boils down to as far as a fade is the club face at impact just needs to be open to your club path in order for the ball to fade. That's all that has to happen. So there's probably 100 ways you can think about that and make that happen. So some people say, aim your feet in, the direction you want the ball to start, and then aim your face at the target and then swing along your toe line. That can work, but you just have to practice it and get to where, the face is opening to the club path. Now, the easiest way I think to set up for it is to set the face up where you want the ball to start. That's what I think is the easiest, because that's what's going to happen. If the club face at impact, that's mostly where the ball is going to start at impact. So I like to set up my club face where I want the ball to start. And then I will move my feet line up my feet away from the direction that I want it to curve. So if I want to hit a draw, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up with my face pointed in the direction that I want the ball to start. And then I'm going to have my feet a little bit more closed to that because I want the ball to turn to the left. Whereas if I want to hit a fade, I'm going to aim my face in the direction I want the ball to start. And then I'm going to open my feet to that. And that's going to help me to swing more out to in. Some people, they don't really change their stance much at all. They'll just move the ball a little bit further back or a little bit forward in their stance and hold the face off or feel like they roll the hands over a little bit more to get it to fade or draw. Everybody's got different ways of doing it. Just the only thing that needs to happen is to hit a fade, the face has to be open to the path, and to hit a draw, the face has to be closed to your club path. As long as you do that and you hit it in the center of the face, it will draw and fade. Now, if you hit it off center strike, if you hit it more toward the toe, that ball is going to tend to want to start a little bit more to the right if you're a right-handed golfer, and then it's going to tend to want to draw more. And if you hit it on the heel, it's going to tend to want to start a little bit more to the left, and it's going to want to fade more. So it's really, really important if you're trying to hit a draw to not hit it in the heel, because if you hit it in the heel, it's probably not going to draw very much, not as much as it normally would. I would be trying to hit it more in the center toe-ish, maybe just a hair toward the toe. That's what I'd be trying to feel like. Now, if you're hitting a fade, same thing's true. You don't want to hit it out on the toe because that ball is going to tend to want to draw, and you may end up hitting a ball that draws when you're trying to hit a fade, and that can be disastrous, right? That's that double cross. So you may want to aim kind of more for the inner part of the face to make sure that ball fades a little bit. So some things to keep in mind when you're working on these things. It's just a matter of getting comfortable with it and practicing it. Everyone's going to have different feelings and better ways, the way that they feel to do it. The way I like to feel to do it is when I'm trying to hit a draw, I set up with the club face a little bit more closed, but open to close to my stance. That's basically how I get it to work. And then opposite for a fade. So Richard H says, I have a SCPT30 putter device. As hard as I try, I cannot come through with a 5.6 open face. Any ideas as to how to correct that? 5.6. So 3 degrees open face. So what I'd be trying to do is I'd be trying to hit, it seems like you're opening up the putter face as you're coming through impact. I'd be being more target centric, and I'd actually be trying to miss putts to the left. I'd be setting up, just maybe you're set up and you feel like you're set up closed. So subconsciously you open the club face as you're coming through. So make sure that you're set up right, straight at it. So there's all kinds of things that you can use. Some things that you can use are, alignment sticks. You can create kind of a track for the ball to go through. That will help give you some lines and see. You can use a putting mirror and get behind it and make sure the lines, you can take your club and look down and make sure the lines are directly lined up. Make sure that you find a straight putt. You can use a chalk line. You can use, I actually use a laser. It's actually, I might have it in here. So I got this laser. I actually take it and I put it on top of this cigar tin that I got. And I use a cigar tin because it's metal, because it's magnetic. This is magnetic. So it's a little laser. And I put it on top of it. And it puts a little laser on the wall. There you go. You can kind of see. So I put this on the green. And then this creates a laser all the way. I elevate it so that it can be above the putter. Otherwise, it'll block it all the way to the hole. So I'll put this behind the hole and line it up. And then now I have a straight putt that, laser, and I make sure that I'm lined up right. So I have a tendency to feel like I'm set up closed when I'm actually set up, fairly square. It's just, I've always kind of struggled with that. So I usually miss a lot of putts to the left because I'm basically lined up to the left when I feel like I'm lined up at the target. So I use this to kind of get more comfortable lining up where I'm actually square. And then it's helped out my putting a little bit, especially the short putts. So yeah, make sure that you're lined up correctly. You can get these at any hardware store. I don't think they're really expensive. I think this might have been $15-20 maybe. You can probably find cheaper ones. But yeah, it's just a little magnetic thing. It's really you use it for it's a laser level is basically what it's called. It's got the you can check and see it's got the bubble levels in there. So I also use it doing the work around the house too. But especially if you're working with hanging up anything, you need to find once you find the stud, you can set this up so where it's you can see exactly where the stud is on the wall. If you assuming your stud is level anyway, perfectly vertical. But yeah, that's what I kind of use. But there's all kinds of things that you can use to get that working. But yeah, make sure that you're set up properly. And then, because I actually found that I was pushing my putts, that I would come through and I would push my putts subconsciously to kind of make up for that. And that might be what you're doing a little bit too. So I would check and make sure that you're lined up properly right at the target. And then from there, see if you can get it to come in at the right, with the right face angle as you're coming in. Peter D says, what are the differences between setup at the driver and irons with respect to spine angle, how much you are bent over, forward shaft lean, feet width, and ball placement? All right, so a lot of good questions there. So as far as setup is concerned, it's going to be fairly identical. Now, there is no hard and fast rule for how, your spine angle. It can be the exact same, but for myself, I actually like to set up with a little bit more angled away. And the reason for that is it helps me promote a little bit more of an upward angle of attack on the golf ball. Because with the driver, that's what you want to do. You want to hit up on the golf ball. That's going to be ideal for distance. Hitting up on the golf ball is going to allow you to get a higher launch, and it's going to allow you to lower the spin on it, which is ideal for getting more distance. So that's what I do. I like to set up with a little bit more angled away. So if I'm set up, let's say I'm set up 6 degrees angled away, somewhere in there for a typical iron shot, I might get with my driver, more in that 10-degree angled away position. So that's just me. You can give it a try and see if that helps you. But as far as You can have the exact same if you want. That's completely fine. As far as how much I'm bent over from the ball, so with an iron, so if I grab an iron here, typically your hands are kind of hanging straight down. So if you see, this is kind of how I'm set up with an iron. My arms are just basically kind of hanging straight down from my body. But since this iron is so much shorter, you can see how my driver is so much longer than this iron. You will actually set up a little bit. You can set up a little bit more upright with your driver. So that's going to put you kind of more. You're standing up a little bit more upright, and you're reaching just a little bit more, just because the club is so much longer than the other ones. You do the same thing with the 3-wood, just a little bit more upright. Let me make sure I answered all your questions there. As far as forward shaft lean, that is completely subjective, personal preference. Some people will set up with a lot of forward hand press. Some people will set up with actually backward shaft lean. I mean, you're going to see a lot of different things. If you look at people on tour, you're going to see a lot of different things there. So it's not super important. It's really just personal preference. I just say put your hands down, whatever's comfortable for you. For me, when I just put my hands down and I get in my angled away position, that's the most comfortable place for me. So that's maybe a little bit. It's pretty vertical, maybe a little bit of forward shaft lean. But some people, hey, it's easier for them to be like this. Some people, it's easier for them to be like this. It's just whatever's most comfortable for you. Now, if you're really, really struggling and you feel like I feel like my hand position is a big problem there, you can always check and see. So the way to do that would be to go from one end of the extreme to the other and hit several balls in between. So how that would work would be, all right, well, if I'm setting up like this and I feel like this is the problem where I'm setting up with my hands, that's got to be the problem. It's usually not, but if I feel like that's the problem, then I can set up, okay, well, let's find out. I'm going to hit some balls, and I'm going to put my hands as far out in front of my body as I can, and I'm going to hit about 4 or 5 balls from that position. And then I'm going to ease off of that and be like, okay, well, I'm going to start right here and see what that does for me. Then I'll go right here, hit 4 or 5 balls, and then kind of go, well, straight up and down, hit 4 or 5 balls, and then I might actually go backward shaft lean, like get it the most over here that I can. I know it's silly, and no one would probably ever set up that way, but it's going from one end of the extreme to the other. And then you'll probably find that there's usually a happy medium in between there, between one end of the extreme and the other. And then wherever that is, that's where you should be. So maybe you don't have the perfect hand placement to give you the best shots, but that's it's just a matter of going through that to see what might be best. But typically, I wouldn't spend a ton of time on it. It's usually not really what the issue is. It's usually has the bigger pieces. That's why we don't talk about where the hands are in the top speed golf system, because it's not a universal truth. The top speed golf system, these are universal truths. Every tour player has a stable spine, slightly angled away from the target, throughout the swing. Every tour player has a big, a good shoulder turn. Every tour player has lag. Every tour player has the compression line angled away, body opening up into impact. Every tour player releases the club out in front. Every tour player does all those things. They are universal truths. If you look on tour, you're going to see all sorts of hand positions, distance away from the ball, the hands high, hands low. You're going to see all kinds of things. So they're not universal truths. Now, feet width, again, that's personal preference. But typically, I like this to be a little bit on the wider side, compared to my other shots, compared to irons. You can't see my feet, but I would say an iron shot for me is probably like right in that area. It's just probably about shoulder width apart. With the driver, I'm about in that area. So I just get, about 6 inches wider probably with the driver. And the reason for that is I take a more aggressive swing with my driver, and most people do. I suggest that most people do. And having a little bit wider of a base makes it a little bit easier to be more aggressive. For me, this is more comfortable with an iron, and this is more comfortable with a more aggressive swing like a driver. So there's that. Ball placement. I typically like, and I think this is important as well, is straight down from the lead shoulder. And the reason why I said you've probably heard straight, just inside the left foot. But let's say I have a Brooks Koepka wide stance. Well, if I go inside my lead foot, that ball's way, way forward. Probably way too far forward. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest that. And if I have a really narrow stance, let's say I have a Daniel Berger or Tony Finau driver stance, really, really narrow. Well, if I play that ball on the inside of my foot, that might be too far back. So if you base it on your lead shoulder, that's going to put you in a pretty good placement. Now, that may not be as the perfect best placement for you. You're going to see variances on tour, and with any good player, you can play it, ball forward, ball back of that, see what works best for you. But that's always a pretty good general area, straight down from the lead shoulder. So I think I covered everything in there for you. Peter, hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any other questions on that. David W. says, Q, now that I've finished the 20-minute distance fixed course, how do I incorporate more than one concept into my swing? That goes for practice as well as swing thoughts on the course without my brain exploding. So what I'd recommend doing is I would recommend focusing on one piece at a time. So, you probably went through the 20-minute distance fixed course and found what helped you the most. So I'd be spending time just ingraining that. So if that was increasing your range of motion, if that was getting more lag, if that was having better sequencing, the whiplash drill, if that was having a better release at the golf ball, depending on what that was, I would be spending more time ingraining that so that way you don't lose it. And that way, once you ingrained it, now you don't have to think about it anymore. Once you've ingrained it, it's in you. It's what you do automatically. You don't have to think about it. And then you can move on to another piece and work on it from there. I wouldn't recommend working on every little thing that there is in the golf swing at one time. That is going to make your brain explode. You're exactly right. You're going to get that analysis by paralysis for sure. So work on one thing at a time. And, once you go through that 20-minute distance fix, you're working at one thing at a time as you move through that. And then once you figure out what that piece is that worked the best for you, and then you can even think about the thing that worked the second best and really work to ingrain that and make that second nature so that you don't have to think about it anymore. And that goes with any piece of the Top Speed Golf system that you work through. We're not saying work on all 5 pieces at the same time. We're saying work on this piece and get to where you're good with it. That part's ingrained, and then move on to the next one. And that could mean going through all 3 levels in the stable fluid spine, then going through the power turn. It could mean doing level 1 of the stable fluid spine, getting that to where it's second nature, and then going to level 1 of the power turn. You could do all that, but I wouldn't recommend working on so many pieces at one time. Now, when you're on the course, go out there and play with the swing that you are confident in. If you are out there thinking about what your elbow is doing and what your spine is doing and everything else, you're going to be taking away focus from hitting the golf ball, which is really the most important thing. Impact is the most important thing. So focus on your impact, and whatever you're doing in your practice, it just has to subconsciously make its way into your swing out in the course. And it will. As you get more comfortable with it, it will subconsciously make its way out in the golf course. But if you focus on working on getting good impact, you're going to play better golf. I made the same mistake when I was in college. When I was in high school, I didn't really think about changing my swing at all. I just went out there and I just swung hard and hit it about as hard as I could all the time. And just, I practiced a lot, so my timing was really good, and I relied on playing golf with that. I had some big ups and downs, and usually I couldn't play real well when the pressure was on. And then went to college, and I tried to change some of these things. I tried to change things in my swing to make it more mechanically sound, but I was trying to change these things and play really good golf at the same time. And when I was out there trying to get my hips in a certain place and my elbow in a certain place and things like that, my impact really suffered. And I really had a hard time playing golf, especially at any kind of competitive level. So once I realized, hey, I'm just going to go out and I'm just going to try and hit the ball the best I can and be as athletic I can out on the course when I'm trying to play for a score. And then when I'm practicing, I'm going to really focus on these things. And when I did that, it changed everything. I was able to hit the ball much better when I was out playing, and I was focusing on impact and impact only. And I try to only have one swing thought at most, or two at most, actually. And when you have swing thoughts, I would try to have two at most. And if you have two, it has to be a backswing and a downswing. You can't have two backswing and two downswing, either or. It has to be, if you're going to have two, it has to be one in the backswing and one in the downswing, because the downswing happens too fast to have two swing thoughts. It just happens way too fast. So typically, unless you're someone that can kind of compartmentalize these things and be able to think about multiple things at once, then it would be pretty difficult, in that case. But if not, I would stick with what, just one swing thought or two swing thoughts at most. Hopefully that helps. But focus on impact when you're going out and playing, and just hitting the ball well. And, the impact would be hitting the ball in the center of the club face, hitting the ball with a square club face, hitting the ball with a club path that's on plane, and hitting the ball before the ground. If you do those four things, you're going to hit good golf shots. Focus on that. And then whatever you're doing in your technique, in your practice, has to subconsciously make its way into your swing out in the course. So Leland says, so when you close the face, do you re-grip the club? I do personally. So if I'm trying to hit a draw, I usually use a little bit stronger of a grip. So that would be, this would be a square. I kind of have a neutral grip for just a square club face, or for a straight shot, sorry. So if I was trying to hit a draw, I would actually close the face just a little bit, and then I would set up a little bit more closed with my stance, and that's going to help me to swing more into out with a club face that's more close to my path. That's going to help me hit a draw. Same thing if a fade, I'll use kind of a weak grip with a fade. So that would be kind of a weak grip right there. Face is a little bit open, and I would set up with my stance a little bit open, and then I would try to basically take a similar type of swing when I was coming through there. I feel like maybe holding the face open just a little bit. So that's what you can do. You don't have to do that. You can also set up with the same grip every single time and feel like you're holding off the face, feel like you're controlling the face angle more with your hands. You can do that as well. You feel like you're maybe rolling over the face a little bit more, turning the handle down a little bit more to get the face to close. It's really to each their own. But I would try both ways and see what way works best for you. All right. So Chris R says, going through the spine angle series and got confused on the course. When confronted with significant uphill lie, ended up topping it about 50 yards, which left me with a significant downhill lie and confused more. Asking specifically about the spine tilt on those two shots. So when you are hitting on a severe slope, basically you just kind of want to match yourself a little bit to that. So if you're hitting on uphill lie, your spine angle is going to be a little bit more angled back. You just have to make sure that you're getting to your lead side, because it's going to be a lot harder. Most likely you topped it because you didn't get to your lead side, or you chunked it because you didn't get to your lead side. Those are a product of really the same issue. So those are just things that are going on in your swing that made that happen. It wasn't necessarily because of the spine. Now, a spine angle may have made it feel more difficult for you to get to your lead side because you're not used to being angled away. Maybe you're used to being more like this, and it's easier to get your way to your lead side when you do that. The only problem with that is you're typically going to be chopping down into the golf ball when you do that. So in order to get this club to release out in front and to have much better contact, you need to be more angled away as you're coming in. So try to match yourself to to a certain extent to the slope. Same thing goes for a downhill lie. If you have a downhill lie, you can't be super angled away because you're just going to hit the ground way before the golf ball. Try to match the slope a little bit, be a little bit more angled down. Now, understand that the ball is going to come out a lot lower when you do that. And make sure that you get to your lead side so that you don't hit the golf ball, so you don't hit the ground before the golf ball. Now, we do have some special shots videos if you want to check those out. The way to check those out is if you go to the instruction tab and go to the vault categories, then go to special shots. There's going to be videos on there where Clay talks about hitting uphill lie, downhill lie, side hill lie, ball above the feet, ball below the feet, all that good stuff. So check out those videos as well. But the general gist of it is to match your spine angle. But uphill lie, you got to make sure that you get to your lead side. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble. You're going to hit, behind the ball probably, or even top the ball as well. So give that a try, and best of luck. All right, so we got another question on here. I got another 10 minutes on here, so if you want to post your questions in there, I'll be happy to answer any more questions that you have. But Leland H says, when trying to hit a lower trajectory with ball back in stance, I feel as if I'm coming down too steep and having trouble making contact. That's definitely what could be happening. If you put the ball back in your stance, it's going to, you're going to put that ball in a position where it's much easier to kind of chop down into the ball. Now, that's one way to hit the ball lower, but the best way to hit the ball lower is to de-loft the face, to take loft off. So instead of chopping down, now chopping down is a form. It's usually easier to take loft off the face when you do that, but you're also hitting down on the golf ball a lot, which makes your margin for error pretty slim. So you want to be where you're de-lofting the face, but you're still coming in nice and shallow. And that comes from, turning the handle down, squaring the club face by turning the handle down, getting that club nice and shallow. That's the move course. If you want to work through the move course, that'll really help you to get that de-lofting of the face on there. So basically what that means, I have a club here. If you are shallowing out the club, that's going to help you to stay in your posture so that you don't have to stand up in the downswing. Because typically what happens if this ball is steep or too shallow, you're going to tend to make a compensation in the downswing to get this club to be back on plane. So if you're nice and shallow, if you're looking on camera, you watch this butt into the club, see where it's pointing in relationship to the golf ball. It should be just a little bit outside the golf ball. We're talking like 6 inches, maybe a foot at most outside the golf ball. That's going to be a nice shallow position for this club. And that's going to allow you to stay in your posture. If you can stay in your posture, now I can get my hands lower and I can take more loft off this face. The lower my hands are, the more loft I can take off of this face. Now, the next thing I need to do is, because I'm getting my hands more forward and I'm de-lofting the face, I need to get that club face square. Because if I do what I normally do when I'm coming through impact and I have my hands pushed forward, I'm going to have that face wide open. So what I have to do is I have to come in and I have to turn the handle down. Watch my hands. I just went like that. That's the move. So it's shallowing and turning the handle down. That's what you're doing. And that allows you to square up the club face when you have forward shaft lean. So that's what I'd be working on to really get that ball to come out a lot lower for you. And I would go to the extreme with it. Try to take every bit of loft off the face. Because the worst thing that can happen is you'll just overdo it. And then at that point, all you have to do is ease off of that to get to where you want to go. So get to the point to where you can hit a ball underneath a door, right? So get to where you can do that. And then once you're able to do that, then you can just ease off of it to get it, to where it's more manageable. So that's what I'd recommend. And again, I'm on here for about 7 more minutes here. So if you have more questions, go ahead and post them on there. If you don't, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. But like I said, I'll stay till 5 after. And again, I apologize for the late start today. We've been having a little bit of issues with YouTube getting our videos to play. We actually tested it this morning and it worked flawlessly, but for some reason this afternoon it did not work. Quick reminder, we will not have office hours tomorrow or Wednesday. We will be returning on Thursday, and that will be in the afternoon, 3 p.m. We have a company outing that starts tomorrow and goes till Thursday morning. But I'll be returning. I'll be back here in time at home. So we will not have office hours tomorrow. It's actually listed. You'll see at the top of the screen there. You'll see that it says no office hours. So Michael C says, any tag instructors in the Baltimore area, or are they only in Florida? So I assume he means TSG instructors. We only have TSG instructors here in Florida. It's just me, Robin, and Clay. That's it. And we're all here in Florida, so in the Orlando area. So sorry we don't have any other instructors anywhere else. David H says, what do you think about when you hit a 60-yard pitch? Basically, I'm just thinking about my distance control mostly. So for me, a 60-yard pitch is I hit that with my 54-degree wedge. So if I grab my wedge here, so a 54-degree, that's about a choked up 54 9 o'clock swing for me. So I choked down to about where it almost says ping on here. So I'm choked down an inch or so. And then for me, I open up a little bit. I open up my feet a little bit if I angle this down. So this is more of a gauged shot. I'm trying to hit it a certain distance that's perfect. So it's not important to get like a full shoulder turn because I'm just going for a certain distance. So for shots like that, I like to open up my body a little bit. This presets open the hips a little bit. It makes it easier to get everything to open up as you're coming through, especially with a shorter swing. So for me, again, choked up. I like to choke up on my wedges because I feel like it gives me a little bit more control. So I'll choke up, and then I'll take about a 9 o'clock swing, which will be about right here. And then I'll come in, and I'll try to get that ball first contact. Just pick it right off the turf there. For that long of a swing, depending on the conditions, there'll probably be a little bit of a divot there. I'll probably just kind of rough up that turf. But, yeah, I'll try to make sure I get ball first contact. I got my weight forward, and I try to drive that ball in there and have my body kind of opening up as I'm coming through with it. So that's what I'd recommend. If you're wanting to work on your pitching game, then I'd recommend going to the Top Speed Golf, the wedge system, and working through those. We actually have another video that's specific for 60-yard wedge shots as well. It's going to have a lot to do with what I just talked about. But basically, for the most part, that's what it's all about. David W. says, any suggestions for increasing on the course endurance? Start to get sloppy around hole 11, 12. Want to stand up sometimes. Don't complete swing. I just recommend getting in better shape. I mean, playing more golf helps. Getting in better shape also helps. Doing some walking on the side, exercising, eat better, that sort of thing. I mean, that's going to help your endurance as far as anything goes. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'd recommend. Just kind of working on that. But yeah, maybe take a snack with you. I like to bring in like a peanut butter and jelly or something like that. Or actually, I'm an almond butter and jelly guy. I like almond butter a little bit better. So I bring an almond butter and jelly sandwich sometimes, and I eat that at the turn. It gives me a little bit more energy. But yeah, that can help as well. Maybe a little bit of like a protein bar or something like that. Those Kind bars, I like those. You can bring one of those. That's like a little oatmeal kind of bar. Give you a little bit of a pick me up. That's what I'd recommend for sure. So Leland H says, appreciate your answers. Some good answers to work on. Have a good time at the TSG event. Sounds good. And then Leland says, so for lower trajectory, I can take less lofted club and choke down. I think that will help better than moving my ball back and feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, I would recommend. So there's kind of an in-between there. So you still want to have de-lofting the face is definitely, I don't know what your swing looks like, Leland, but if you're a flipper, you can take less loft and choke up on the club, but your impact conditions are going to be tough because you're coming in way, way too shallow because you're flipping the club. When you flip the club, it kind of really levels this out at the bottom, and you come in really, really shallow, and it basically makes it to where it's really hard to get really, really solid contact because you're pretty much going to hit everything low on the face or you're going to hit the ground before the golf ball a lot of the times. So you still want to have – that's why I was talking about the move, because that's going to help you get forward shaft lean, which is going to help you hit down on the ball a little bit, not too much. You want to get down on the ball just a little bit to ensure you get that, that ball first contact. So that's what I'd recommend. But, yeah, taking less loft is definitely going to help to get that ball to go lower too. So Richard H says, Revive is an electrolyte capsule and helps with energy add-on. Sure. I mean, I've never taken pills or anything like that to help with that, but yeah, if that works for you, and um, I can't recommend that. I've never tried it or anything, but to me, a good old fashioned PB and J or AB and J, that's a good way to go. It probably does about the same thing. That and a bottle of Gatorade will probably do it. All right, so everybody, thanks for joining me. I'm going to sign off of here, and again, I will be gone tomorrow and Wednesday. Be back Thursday afternoon. So I will talk to you all then. Thanks a lot for joining me.